What are we talking about today, ladies?
Why don't we talk about managing expectations?
Ooh.
Not managing up those upstairs as expectations, but team members. Really
Hmm.
specifically, how much do they expect your magic wand to fix things, when there are timescales involved or where you're I think the specific challenges I think a lot of us have at the moment is there's a combination of a complete lack of information about change and things that are ongoing or challenges that are ongoing, coupled with bits of information that you may or may not be allowed to share with your team that may or may not change things or resolve things in the near future. And in the meantime, you have this team they can often feel a bit in limbo, feel like you're not doing anything, feel frustrated, especially if they're offering like solutions that you can't really like carry forward. But the other stress of the other end of the kind of spectrum is those situations where you sort of want to say to them, that's just how it is. Like I was thinking about, enrollment is a great example, or like clearing. Like results day is it's a slog, and there's literally no way I can make it less of a slog. It's a really long day. It's really intense. That time of year is really crazy. Like welcome week is just mad, and you sort of have to some point say, I can't make it any easier. Like you will just have to suck it up. Obviously, there's a middle ground we want to hit. So I would appreciate your advice and thoughts, ladies. Because there's an example that jumps to mind of this from in my career, like 10 years ago. In that sense, I don't know actually how much of it's generational, how much of it's more like the different stages people are in their careers.
Mhm.
But I did have a staff member who found the work they were doing boring. It was an entry level post. I agree. I wouldn't have wanted to do their work all day. What I could not, and I was an inexperienced manager at the time. This was my first management post, pretty much. What I couldn't get them to understand, and I probably would go about it slightly differently now anyway, but what I couldn't get them to understand then, however much I tried to explain it, was if you do the boring stuff quickly, efficiently, and accurately, and stop faffing around and procrastinating and being lazy about it, then you can do some cool stuff. Because you have to earn your stripes. Like in all careers, you do always have to earn your stripes, but also you have to create the space. Like if you really want to do something cool, you want to do some shadowing, great, create the space for it. Like build the capacity in for it, build a relationship for it, propose a collaborative opportunity. It can't
Yeah.
be something that you just ask for and get. Perhaps that's the managing expectation things, isn't it? And you do get that with staff members who expect you to like deliver them development on a plate. And where there's no budget for delivering of development, i.e., here's a training course, you can't do that. Um,
Mm.
so I think there is something about perhaps there's something there about the different sort of stages and journeys that people go through on their career and the different learning points, and that some things you cannot teach, some things you have to experience to learn. Because I've been there. I've been that like little know-it-all that was like, oh, this would be so much easier if we did it like this. Like, oh, why doesn't that person do it? Obviously, not knowing loads of other context and things like that, because you're focused on your like really narrow thing. So perhaps it's something
Yeah.
about stages, and the dynamics of a team are going to really shift depending on the combination of experience and personality and life and career stage that different team members are in.
No, I mean, what you've just described, I've experienced so many times where, particularly, I find it depends on the role, and yeah, the seniority of the role or lack thereof does play into that. Some, as you say, we've all had to earn our stripes. We've all had to do some boring, tedious stuff, but it's what needs doing, and you get on and do it, and you show that you can get the work done and still have more to contribute, then that's a feather in your cap. That's not, and it's sometimes being able to explain that in a way that lands, and they go, I'm not giving you boring things to be cruel. Like this is actually, I'm trying to give you opportunities to learn more skills and to have more examples when it comes to your next interview, or to, I need you to look at it like it, an opportunity and not just a drag, especially if you're on, a short-term contract or a temporary fill. It's like you've come in to help because somebody needs help. So be helpful. That's not the time to then start demanding that you go on the team away day for, some big culture development thing as a team, when that's not what you're here to do. You're here to actually do this task, or to staff the reception, or to cover, and it's not the time to start demanding, well, if I cover that, who's going to cover my next week? Because I'm not doing two. And it's like that. You're not in a position to make demands like that. You've been brought in to be helpful, add value, don't take value away.
Yeah.
That can be a really hard thing to explain if somebody doesn't have that mindset and doesn't have that expectation of wanting to be useful and wanting to do a good job, and wanting that, where they expect the platter and
I almost feel like part of the induction needs to be like, and now watch Karate Kid, and then for quite a lot of your job you're going to be wax on, wax off, and that's it. That's all you have to master right now until you're ready to progress to the next thing, and really hammering it as actually part of the agreement that this is what this process looks like.
Yeah.
And some of that as well is about accepting that these processes aren't perfect and these things are really frustrating, but not seeing that as something that other people necessarily need to fix. Because as a manager, you can feel like the team will bring you challenges, team members will bring you challenges or complaints about something. And that's fine. But what do you want me to do about it? Do you want me just to listen while you complain about how stupid that process is? Because I'll join that complaint. I totally agree. Is it within our gift to change it? Not right now. So, and that's where I find it really difficult. But, and I think particularly if you're an early career manager, like you've not been a manager very long, you do have this compulsion to fix everything. And that can be a real stress point, I think, because when you're really stuck by systems. So, I've worked in lots of places with quite immature technical systems, and people will get, especially people new to a process or new to a system or new to the institution, will get so annoyed with it. And I'm like, first of all, you find yourself like a grumpy old woman being like, well, you didn't know what it used to be like. Obviously that's not very helpful, but there is a limit to what we can do. And thinking about those, I always come back to my circles of control, concern, and influence. And I think they are that tool, which we can share in the link in the post, is actually incredibly helpful, both as a manager to think, is this a reasonable thing that they're complaining to me about? Like, do I need to do something about this? Or is this just something that we can only influence like our tiny little aspect of it? But that does link back to what you're saying, Kelly, is you have to have really spent the time doing a process. If you think it's rubbish, it's the first time you get shown how to do it, no one is going to want to hear it. You need to work it, you need to properly gather evidence about it, and then think about alternative solutions to it. You don't need to have the answers, but if you come in and say, this is causing a problem, we're getting too many errors because, I don't know, like we're duplicating things from one spreadsheet to another, just telling me that fact as a manager is very difficult. I'm like, my fairy godmother wand cannot fix this. Do you have any ideas? But those ideas need to be in some way like testable, or do you mind if I try it on this or something like that? But I'm finding it increasingly interesting to see how different people respond to those situations. Like some find it really pressurizing and they want you to like fix it. When you can't, they see that as a barrier, whereas others see it as a challenge and think, right, can I sort this? I think back to Mehmet Tarhan, who is in my book, one of the contributors to my book, who I still marvel at this, spent his first job in HE processing postgraduate application references for 37 hours a week. Like, I literally don't know how he survived that experience, but he did it, made it better, made it even better. And, 7 or 8 years later, he's now head of planning and insight type thing. So he took something, made it better. No one else cared about it. No one else wanted to put the time into it, and created an incredible set of expertise and insight and everything. I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but it does remind me that there are such different ways that we approach things. And if you just see it, because I'm competitive, right? I always see these things as a challenge. Like, how can we find a better way despite the circumstances, rather than seeing them as like a wall? What advice would you give managers, Fiona, that are feeling that their team have unreasonable expectations of what they should deliver on?
A couple of things. One is, as a manager, knowing what is available to you to change. And that can be system focused or culture focused. Like, I worked with a team a while ago where they had a director who insisted they be in the office 4 days a week. And they all hated it. And that was different than the rest of the institution. But this particular area of the institution, the director required them in the office 4 days a week. And the managers, they're sort of, those first managers were constantly battling with their team members about it and escalating and going, oh, let me go and have a chat with my manager and see what they say. Like, okay, well, let's just slow this down for a second. Do you believe there is any possibility that this will be changed? And they were like, no. And I'm like, well, then you're just giving away all of your power by saying that you're going to escalate it to your manager when you know full well that nothing's going to change. And so actually you're just adding to the drama. And it would probably be more expedient and more assertive for you to just lay down that line and go, listen, I don't like it either. I don't want to be in 4 days a week, but this is how it is. So instead of continuing to complain about this, how about if we get on with some things that we can change and improve? And they all sort of went, oh, okay, yeah. And it was like, I think there are quite a lot of opportunities like that where managers.
Sorry,
cat's behind the curtain. What are you doing, you maddo? There are a lot of opportunities, I think, like that, where managers are giving away that clarity of their own message by escalating when actually they know that there's not going to be any change and they can afford to hold the ground and just, work with their team to move past whatever the frustration or challenge is. The other thing, though, I think I have a slight hesitation about we all need to kind of roll our sleeves up and dig in. A large part of me agrees and wants to say, yeah, that's absolutely right. Another part of me is like, are we doing a disservice to some neurodivergent folk who actually find that very, very difficult? And I don't have a right answer or even any particularly good guidance here, but a cautionary note maybe about how much we're expecting people to push through when that actually might not be available or it might not be the right thing for them.
The other thing I was going to say was, this is true for managing, but also in your friendships and your relationship and your kids and, parenting. And sometimes it helps to also be clear what it is they're asking from you. As you joked earlier, Rachel, are you just wanting to know? Because I can listen, but sometimes we want to jump in and fix it when all someone's asking us to do is hold space for that, or to hear them and to feel like they've had a chance to get their frustrations off their chest. And they know you can't fix it. They perhaps, but they, that's not what they're asking from you. But we automatically assume that it's our job to fix something. And so we jump in without, and trample all over them when maybe all they wanted was for you to listen. So before you go banging your head against brick walls, maybe just working out what the ask is from them.
And then what would a successful outcome look like is my current favorite. I used to lean in, like what, asking them directly, like what do they want? Sometimes just saying, what are you looking for from me here? But actually that, again, it puts it in a kind of slightly confrontational space. So saying to them, look, you raised this issue, you're putting this to me. What was just a successful outcome? Gives me an idea as well, some idea of actually what they're expecting me to do, and where I need to temper it. Like if they say, oh, expect that this, say you've got a deadline approaching, like by that deadline, this thing is going to be sorted, so I don't have to do it tomorrow. And I have to say, well, I'm afraid that that's an unrealistic expectation in the climate we're in. But had I just said, what do you want? They were like, what to fix it? If you see what I mean, like I wouldn't have got that insight. Lots for us to reflect on.
I think that's all we've got time for. Kelly's waving her mug at the camera.
I've got
instinctively. Excellent.
I remembered.
Cheers.
See you next time.